So I think we can start, and today is the last lecture of the course, you know, and so as usual, I mean, the schedule is, we are at the very end of the course, right? We are here, and today we are going to see an example. So all the things we learned until now, we try to apply it to a past, exam text. That I already put online a few days ago, quite a few days ago. This is this sample exam. Actually, it's a real exam, okay? It was given in June 2022, okay? I know you already have of course, the text for the next exam, the first exam. You can access it from here, from the exam page, okay? The exam 1. As we said in the schedule, June 18th, there will be the text for the second exam call, okay? That will be in July. I don't remember exactly which date, but it's already published, okay? And in mid-August, there will be the text for the third exam, okay? That is more or less at the beginning of September, but the dates are already published, okay? So 20 days more or less in advance, maybe, I don't know, maybe 1 day or two more in advance, because of the holidays. I will publish in August the text for the third exam, okay? So by the way, currently there are more than 110 people enrolled for the first exam. I mean, enrolling in the web portal, it doesn't mean you have to come. I mean, you can delete your enrollment anytime, so no problem for that. If you think it's better to give the second exam and so on, you can delete your enrollment at any time. There's no penalty for doing that, okay? I mean, we need to have, the list of enrolled students for an exam, just because we need to book rooms, okay? So we need to have more or less an idea about the number of people. So it's like 50 is one thing, it's 150, of course, it's 3 times, okay? But I mean, it doesn't have any other particular implications. And then we will count, the submissions after the deadline, okay? So the day after the deadline, I think it's Friday, I will collect all the submissions and check everything is fine and so on, and prepare a schedule for the oral exam that will probably start on the next Monday, okay? So it's, the deadline is 18th, so it means we will probably start 22nd, okay, of June. We call it oral exam, but it's actually the discussion of the project, okay? And it will last for a few days, because, if there are really 100 plus students enrolled, it will take time, for sure. Okay, so let's do what we are supposed to do today, okay? So, of course, we cannot discuss, the text for the first exam, because, of course, if you have questions, I'll try to answer to them, but I cannot give so many details as I will do for the sample exam, okay? To ensure fairness among all students that want to attend other exams for, second, third, fourth, that have no chance to have a discussion in the room for the exam. Okay, let's go and have a look at the sample exam, which I think it contains, quite a number of things which are common to almost all exams. Okay, and by the way, there is a final version. This is the final version, as you saw here. This is the preliminary version, because of course sometimes you have comments that make us think, well, maybe this thing, one additional thing should be specified a bit better in the text. And so basically today, at the latest tomorrow, I will fix the text and have the final version of the text. But it doesn't change that much. It's just, some details to be clarified. Okay, and sometimes you wonder, what if this happens and we actually, well, of course we have an idea in mind, but we didn't specify it very well, very much in details, and we will just add this small modification, which are actually not modification, but just improvements in the description of what you should do. Okay, good. So let's have a look at the text. The text of the sample exam. So design and implement a web application, as usual, okay, to manage the study plan of a university students. The application must satisfy the following requirements. And so basically, there's something like, in this case, the university offers a series of courses. In the exam, there is the theater with the places and seats and so on. And each course is characterized by unique 7 characters code, a name, and an integer number of credits. Again, integer was added later, I think, because somebody said, well, can I have a course like 6.5 credits? Well, just for simplicity. I mean, these details are not so important. I mean, we don't really care that much about these details, okay? Because this is just, integer versus floating point number, and we don't really care about, I mean, not that much. Not as much as when you are missing security checks on the server side, right? Okay, that's a very different story. Okay? A student study plan is a subset of the courses offered by the university. The total number of credits for the courses is set in a study plan can range from 60 to 80 credits, extremes included. Okay? Again, I mean, this is again something, I mean, that was probably added afterwards, but I mean, we don't really care if it's 79 or 80, okay? Of course, I mean, if you follow the specifications and you follow them literally, I mean, all the details, you get 30 plus laude. I mean, but it's not just about this specification, it's about the way you design the application, the APIs, and then last step is, following the specifications. Of course, if you miss a single minor point, maybe we don't care that much. If you miss, many of them, well, in some way we should count that. Okay, so full-time option, study plan is 60 to 80 or 20 to 40 for the part-time option. So there are 2 ways of being, to create a study plan, okay? Or just be careful to, strictly follow what is specified in the text. Like a study plan is something you do in your course of study, of course, okay? But here, we have a text, and this text is supposed to be a subset of what you do, and it doesn't have necessarily to match what you are actually doing in reality. I mean, as I always say in this course, reasonable assumptions are good, and if you're in doubt, just ask. If it's about specification, we will answer, okay? We will not tell you, you should implement it in this way, the other way, and so on, but if you ask, can a study plan be, I don't know, both, can I have 2 study plans? Answer, no, okay? And so on. Just because we want things to be simple. Of course, you can implement whatever you want, but, you cannot blame ourselves, you cannot blame the teachers because they gave a too big assignment, okay? Because, we want to restrict things to the really important things to see what, what can you do in terms of designing a good application, in terms of security of the APIs, the interactions, and so on, okay? So that's why sometimes, of course, a student study plan is not just one study plan. Every year you have to renew it, and you add courses at a certain time, remove at other times, and so on, but time is not mentioned, so it's not required, okay? Because, it's an additional detail. It doesn't really change anything about the way you implement the solution, okay? Of course, you add one more thing, but, security and design, APIs, and so on doesn't change that much, okay? Just an additional field somewhere. Okay, a course can have 1 or more constraints for its insertion in the study plan. A course can be incompatible with one or more courses. It means it cannot be selected together, like Italian and English version, for instance, okay? And then there is an example later on, but I hope you already saw the text, okay? Then, a course can have 1 mandatory preparatory course, which must be already present in the study plan. So you cannot add, let's say, offensive security if you didn't have, if you didn't add web applications, okay? It's not about timing. It's about the way the study plan is composed, okay? So before inserting one, the other one has to be inserted already, okay? So it's a check to be done somewhere in the application and on the server side as well. a course can have a maximum number of students able to add it into the study plan, okay? So you need to track the fact that there are students that have the course in the study plan, and so you have to enforce a maximum number of students on some courses, okay? And later on, some examples will be given about courses and so on. So in the home page of the application, unauthenticated anonymous users see all the courses that the university offers. So you arrive at the front page and you can see the list of the courses, more or less like the Politecnico web page. Of course, that is more complex, but I mean, that's a basic principle. List of courses must be displayed in alphabetical order. Please don't forget these details. I mean, it's very simple to implement. Just dot sort something and a callback, you know, to sort an array, okay? I mean, I know it's a bit annoying when you miss these things, but I mean, let's say, I mean, to add something that is easy to solve so you can get also some points quite easily, let's say. For each course, the list shows its description, the code, the name, the number of credits, the number of students that already chose the course, and if present, the maximum number of students that you can select it, okay? So this is the home page, okay? So this is public information because it's in the home page. Each course description may be expanded, contracted by the user to show any incompatible or preparatory courses, display at least their code. Again, this has been added afterwards because somebody has said, what should we display about, you know, the mandatory courses, preparatory courses, and so on and so on? Okay, well, at least show the code. Many courses may be in the expanded state at the same time, okay? I mean, this is more about the user interface. I mean, this time, probably this year will not, probably this year, I mean, we will not be so specific about the user interface because it's something, I mean, we want you to design in a reasonable way, okay? You probably already read the specification for the theater. I mean, it doesn't give you so many requirements about the user interface. Actually, having them is nice in the sense that testing is easier at the exam during the discussion, but at the same time, it's a bit more, how to say, it constrains you much more when designing the application. So that's why we try to remove this kind of constraints. Okay, once logged in the logged in home page, users continue to see the same full course list, so actually the same list. It means also that you can reuse, and it's very much appreciated if you reuse the same components, okay, for doing the same things, because it's like using a function twice, I mean, call a function twice to do two different things, just maybe with a different parameter, that in terms of React means a different prop, and that's fine. In this page, if no study plan has been created, the user may create an empty page specifying the full-time or part-time option. This empty list can be edited according to the following instruction. If a study plan has already been created, persistently saved, it is immediately displayed in the same page and can be edited as below. Again, these are requirements of the user interface. I mean, it was, you know, 4 years ago. We were a bit strict. I mean, we hoped that it would speed up the testing, but I mean, probably it doesn't make that much difference in the game. As I told you, we try not to constrain the user interface too much nowadays. Okay, so the editing of the display study plan allows the following operation. Always display the number of credits corresponding to the courses in the study plan and the maximum and minimum allowed values. So there is a total number of credits for the courses you already inserted in the study plan. You add some courses, this total updates, and so on. Add a course from the full list to the study plan. Only courses that satisfy all constraints can be added, okay? So we add the constraints here, and you need to check these constraints, okay? And remove a course from the study plan if it does not violate any preparatory constraints. I mean, so you cannot remove something like web application in the previous example if you have this offensive security, because offensive security needs the first one, okay, this web application, for instance. Otherwise, the application should display the reason, okay? This is a requirement as well. If a course cannot be added, it will be marked differently in the full list, and the application should display the reason, okay? So, I should not be able to add a course in the client if it doesn't satisfy the constraint, okay? But I mean, this is not saving you for doing checks on the server side and so on, okay? This is just because we want some rules to be enforced on the client side because you have React, you have states and so on, so we want you to be able to use states and updates in a consistent way to show that you understood the basic React concept. You change states, or you react to events like clicks, addition, removal of courses, and so on, and something updates in the user interface automatically because you change states in React. Okay, that's let's say half of the purpose of the text for the exam, and the theater as well. Okay, you click on a seat, and I mean this seat has to be highlighted in some ways. You click. What was the requirements? I think you make a reservation and something should happen in the interface, okay? Okay, good. During the editing session, the user might save the study plan in a persistent way. This will replace any possible previous version. The user may cancel the current modification. In this case, a persistent copy, if any, must not be modified. So here we understand there is something happening on the client side, and before we hit save, everything stays on the client. And when we click save, the things are transferred on the server because the permanent storage is only on the server side. It's the database, right? Okay. And you can also cancel, so you should have some places where you have the initial state. Or maybe you can reload the state from the server. That's up to you, okay? Again, I mean, there are multiple ways of addressing the requirements of the text of the exam, okay? So you can keep a state with the original state, React state with the original state of your study plan, or maybe you can just go and ask again for what is stored on the server to update the original version of the study plan. When saving, the study plan must be validated according to the min-max number of credits, okay? This is sort of obvious, but sometimes we want to specify this kind of obvious things just to make sure that nobody at the exam says, well, this was not said explicitly in the text and so on, okay? Maybe nowadays I wouldn't write this sentence, but I mean, it was four years ago, okay? Additionally, the user may delete the entire study plan, including the persistent copy, okay? So there is an additional button or some links or action you can do in the user interface and tell the server to discard all the content on the study plan. It means including the persistent copy means telling the server to discard it. After each of these actions, the application will be in the logged in home page. Okay? Again, user interface because of testing and so on. But I mean, we are less strict on this part nowadays. And this part in blue is just because I mean the two-factor authentication at that time was not explained, but nowadays it's required. And so I added some requirements about this. Okay. So the delete action can only be performed if the user performed two-second factor authentication at authentication time. When you log in, you are asked for the code, the TOTP code. It has to be implemented with the TOTP. Okay, there are different ways of implementing second factor authentication, but we require the TOTP. That is basically, exactly what we saw during the lectures. Okay, so I'm not asking for anything different from what we saw in the lectures. Okay. Also, any student that can any student can also choose to authenticate without using the second factor authentication procedure at login time. So you can operate, just you are restricted to certain action. It means you cannot do the delete operation. Okay. The organization of this specification, different screens and so on, is left to the student, even though, we had quite a number of constraints on the user interface, so probably, different screens are quite constrained, okay? But routes, client routes, and of course the API URLs and so on are entirely up to you, okay? And they are subject to evaluation, are the first thing I will have a look at when we start the discussion. For the second factor authentication procedure, for simplicity, use the following secret and so on. Everybody uses the same secret just for convenience. So we don't have the issue of scanning a code and make sure it works. It doesn't work. How are we going to test this stuff and so on? It takes 5 minutes to solve it. If it happens for everybody, it takes 1 more day to do the exam. Okay? At least when there are 100 students. Okay, and these requirements are copy-pasting from basically the current text, okay, of the exam, so they are updated, okay? Make sure, to read the bold text, okay, you have to use session, cookies, you cannot use tokens for sessions, for those of you who know what they are. You need to use the core, 2 servers, and so on. So basically what we saw during the lecture. I'm not asking for anything different, but actually I'm asking for exactly for what we saw during the lectures. And the reason is very practical. It's because, of course, we could do things differently, but then, again, it takes much more time to test because we are setting up the server in a certain way, and if everything has been done in that way, it takes, it happens automatically. We have a set of scripts to do all this setup, okay? If you change the default port, the port that we want to use for the development server, for the API server, you didn't set up the course correctly, you used a single server and so on, it takes much more time to investigate what happened. And we are not happy about this. And by the way, we can also go in a way, it can also happen that we are not really so expert in some situations, okay? And so that's why we want to avoid it. Of course, you need to implement the project as a React application, not using another framework. Okay, React was, I don't want to say half of the course, but almost half of the course, and we expect you to use React. Second factor authentication as well, in the way that was specified in the exam, that was specified during the lectures. Okay. We are not refreshing the application unless something stops working, okay? So, we are not expecting that your application works if you have /films, / seats in your exam and so on. We are not loading that application starting from a URL that is different from the /, okay? We expect that when we load the single page application, we start from the first page and there's no need to reload anything, okay? The user registration procedure is not requested unless specifically required in the text. I think at least for this year, probably, we will not request it. We didn't explain it, we didn't show any examples and so on. So, users are already embedded, ready in the database. You can, there is a requirement that says at least 4 users, 5 users, just to do some testing with some username and password and so on. And so there's no need to register new users, okay? Okay, just adopt this best practice, etc., etc. And testing is index MJS. So by the way, I have to say something about this in a minute. And just make sure you commit everything, package JSON, also the package lock JSON. This we saw in the beginning of the course why the package lock JSON is needed. Okay, of course, we are using packages from untrusted sources. We know, but at least as a good security practice, let's try to get this habit of committing and using also the package lock JSON as part of the project, because it specifies the hashes of the packages that we want to use and so on. Okay? And then database requirements, basically every text has this database requirement that is what we expect to be loaded at the minimum, okay? Because we need to have something to play with, okay? Like in the theater, there should be some seats that are already occupied, okay? Otherwise, we start with empty seats, we have to book something, book another thing. But, doing the same operation 3 times, it takes time, okay? So if a booking, 3-4 bookings have already been done, we just try to make an additional one and we tested the booking system, okay? And then we delete something and we tested the deletion operation and so on, okay? If we need to start from scratch, it takes more time. And that's why we want the database to be preloaded with something, okay? This is a bit more complex than the usual exam because, I mean, we supplied a table with courses and so on. So, I mean, we wanted to say, like, I mean, a course is, there has to be 2 courses that have requirements and others, at least 3 couple of courses which are incompatible and so on and so on. I mean, the specification became so messy that in the end we said, well, let's just provide a table so everybody starts from the same point and it's fine, okay? README file, it's very important, a list of the HTTP APIs offered by the server, a short description of the parameters and the exchange objects. Very simple example, but if you name them appropriately and you give an example like an object to be transferred, I mean, for the request or for the answer, probably that's enough, okay? Things are, becomes more difficult when I mean, you have names or data formats that are not what we expect. And of course, we are going to question you. I mean, not because it's wrong, but we want to understand what you thought, okay, if it's correct or not, and so on. Okay, and the list of database tables, that's probably the other important thing. I mean, everything is important, but this is more important, okay? Because, you know, from the schema of the database, we are going to understand how you save the data and if you interpret the text correctly as well, okay? So it's much easier to understand, you know, an unknown program looking at the APIs and the database, okay? And then the rest, a list of routes for the React application, but this typically doesn't create that many problems, and also typically there are not so many because the text of the exam is quite simple, okay? I mean, 2-3 pages are typically more than enough, okay? List of main React components, that is mostly for you, I would say, because, I mean, unless there are some big issues, we are not going to go into reading all the description. We are going to look at the code, okay? But if we cannot really find the code where we expect it and so on, we might go back to the README and check if there is something that is missing or can be interpreted differently and so on. And the screenshot, again, the screenshot is more for you than for me, but I mean, it just allows us to make sure that when we load the application, everything looks fine, okay? Username and password, okay? Don't forget the passwords. They are hashed in the database, okay? So if you don't give us the password, we are blocked. We cannot retrieve the passwords. We had a discussion about this, right? I mean, it's a good practice, but you need to provide the password. And any password is fine, okay? PWD, password, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want. I mean, we don't care about the security of the password. Again, because of time, okay? Typing a password who is 20 characters takes more time than 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? I hope you got the concept. A submission procedure, okay? Don't forget to be enrolled in the exam. So go on the Didactica web portal and click enroll in the exam. In the call, I mean, in the exam that correspond to the one that you're giving. Okay, so the next one is the first one, and then the second one, and so on. Because it helps us, again, it simplifies a lot of things on our side, okay? Because we have a script to download all the people, all the students enrolled, and to match them with the repositories that you uploaded, and so on, okay? You need to push the project in a branch named main, which is the default name on GitHub. It has been created, the repository has been created by GitHub Classroom. And the last commit must be tagged with the tag final, okay? All lowercase, no white space, no F uppercase, and so on. It is a git tag, not a commit message, okay? You can tag it in different ways, okay? There is a git command. You can do it from the web interface. I mean, any way is fine, okay? By the way, probably the best way to make sure everything was correct is after you did all the operation, including the tag, go to the GitHub web interface, okay? Exams, and there will be your repository. I'm taking just one. I mean, maybe not. Let's take one. I know this. Okay, I don't care who is. You have a look here, okay? Tags, and need to say one tag, okay? If it doesn't say one tag here, it means something is wrong. You need to push the tag, you need to do something to make this tag appears, okay? Because what counts is what you pushed on the server before the deadline, okay? Okay, so. And these are the commands we will use to test the application, but basically, I mean, just what we always did during the lectures. We run the client and we run the server, okay? Actually, we start the server and then we run the client, because the client typically at load time loads something from the server. Okay, so let's go back to the text of the actual sample exam and try to think what we could do, okay? I already prepared something we can play with. This is called so it's actually week number 12. Actually, there's a template that you get when you accept the assignment with GitHub Classroom. Oh, by the way, maybe I can show you this. I mean, not really the procedure, but the instructions. Exam, okay. Here, this link that is different for each exam. So there will be 4 links in the end. The first, of course, is just for the first exam. Take some time. You get a list of people. You need to choose your name. Please don't do skip, okay? If you skip, you cannot associate the submission with your name, okay? And if you did it by mistake, you write me an email or a telegram, and we will solve it, okay? It's a private communication, so you don't have to involve any other students, so don't write on the public topic because the others are not interested in your issue, okay? Once you do it, it's valid, let's say, for the whole academic year, but hopefully just for the exam you gave because you passed the exam, okay? And there are instructions for this, classroom instruction, submission instructions. Maybe you already did it, but I mean, the basic requirement is just to have a personal GitHub account. Call it as you like. We don't care about your name or student ID number and so on. Any name is fine, ABCD, whatever, as long as it's a GitHub account and you connect it with this system, okay, with this click when you accept the first assignment, okay? And then you get a repository, like the one I showed you before. So there is a repository with some skeleton code. It basically means there are 2 directories, client and server, plus a third one for images for the screenshots, okay? And the README file, a very basic skeleton of a README file, and you need to fill up things inside this directory. You can just clone the repository, work with your code, and put all the stuff inside your repository. At the end, just add everything, commit, push, add the tag, and that's all. Okay? Why the tag? The tag is just to distinguish those who want to really take the exam from those who pushed some code, but I mean they don't want to come at the exam. Okay? Because maybe they want to go to the second exam or the third exam and so on. And so you cannot really unpush stuff from Git. Okay? It's difficult. I mean, you can do a push deleting everything, but I mean, if there is no tag, it's interpreted like you don't want to go to come and take the exam. Okay? So just be sure to check the tags on the web interface because that's the most reliable way to make sure you added the tag in the end. Okay, so this is the template code. Actually, so there are three folders. Client IMG, that is empty, it's an empty, I mean, it's just a basic screenshot you can delete. And client, in client, basically, I already run npm create, write, latest, and so on. So basically, you have app and the basic app, okay? The one with the button and so on that comes out from the template, okay? And the server, for the server, I must tell you that actually the template was still the last year's template. I changed this year, and I said it must be index.mjs, okay? So one also asked a question about this in the text here. I think nodemon mjs, nodemon and mjs index, nodemon index mjs. Okay, it means it's a module, so it means we have to change just this line. Okay, import express from express. That's the only change, and then the rest can be the same as all the examples we saw during the lectures. Okay, I updated the template now, so I think we can also. Oh, maybe disconnected now. Well, it doesn't matter. We can see it. GitHub exams and the template. So if you accept the assignment from now on, you have an updated server version, okay? But I mean, for those of you who already accepted the assignment, you just have to change one line, okay? And you can also remove use strict, but that's not strictly necessary, okay? Because modules are always running strict mode, okay? But I mean, nothing really special here, just I wanted to warn you, okay? I cannot change the template for those who already accepted the assignment. Okay, so you have to do it yourself, just one line, okay? Or you can stick with the require and so on, so the CommonJS format for the modules is still fine, okay? But it's different from what we showed during the slide, during the lectures, and so you cannot really just copy-pasting code from the lectures, okay? Because it uses the modules, and sometimes you have imports, and you cannot mix imports and requires, okay? Okay, so that's all for the, let's say, discussion, preliminary discussion I wanted to do before starting to solve this sample exam. Okay, so we have this study plan, we have this template from which we can start, but I invite you to think a lot before writing code. Okay, so first thing we should discuss, in your terms, think of for solving the assignment is how to organize the application. Okay, so a good way to organize your ideas, let's say before starting to code, is to take a piece of paper. Okay, this is a virtual piece of paper. Okay, and sketch something about the user interface. Okay, you have a landing page, right? So yes, I mean, this is the landing page, the first page. Okay, this is the route / okay, so think in terms of routes on the client side and views of the user interface. Okay, so what did the text say? Well, actually, in the home page, here it's simple because we had this specification about the user interface, right? In the home page of the application, an authenticated user can see all the courses that the university offers and so on. So, basically, there are some courses, okay? These are the courses. And then course must be displayed in alphabetical order. Okay, let's remember it. Each course description may be expanded, contracted by the user to show any incompatible preparatory courses. Okay, so let's say there are some ways to expand the description. Okay, just use a component, a React component designed by you, prepared by React Bootstrap, whatever you want. Okay, my suggestion is use React's Bootstrap as much as possible because it's well tested, it's ready, it has a nice graphics, even though, I mean, we don't care that much about the graphics, but I mean, it's there. You just have to import it and use it. Okay, so why not? Somebody asked me during the labs, can we use another user interface template like material or whatever? There's another one, well, I don't remember the name at the moment. Okay, you can do whatever you want. Okay, as long as you are able to explain what you're doing. Of course, we are not going to, read the, I don't know, the 10th line of the CSS coming with that UI library and so on, because of course we are not able to do this in Bootstrap as well. CSS is quite complex and so on. But if I say a component that I don't recognize, it's not in your code, you need to be able to tell me it comes from this UI library, it works this way, so you need to pass an attribute because when you need to close it, it needs to have an event handler that handles the closure and so on. So things like this, okay? Because we know more or less the React Bootstrap, but we don't know, all the other libraries and systems that are available around, okay? And we expect, by the way, that you can give us, basic indications about how the components that you used work, okay? Okay, good. So that's one of the basic requirements. So we have a landing page. Once logged in the logged in on page, users continue to see the same full course list. In this page, if no study plan has been created, user might create an empty one. Specifying, okay, in this page, again, this was about user interface requirements. So we should some way have a page that has both the list of courses and the study plan, okay? If a study plan has already been created and persistently saved, it's immediately displayed in the same page and can be edited, okay? So it means we should have a second view, right? Okay, let's make it a bit bigger. A second view, let's assign a route to the second view, okay? Every time you have a view, it's probably good to assign a route, a name for a route on the client side for the route. Can be like study plan. Let me try to write. This is not so good for writing the plan. Okay, that's a possible name. It's up to you. Okay, just use a meaningful name, but just for you, or also because when we discuss the solution together, it's easier to interpret, it's easier for me to read, and it's easier for you to remember what you did, okay? If you call it /A/B/C, of course, it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you, neither you nor me, okay? Okay, what do you see in the study plan? Well, I would say the same list, and that's why it's good to have components, right? You just take a component, you write in a good way, and just show the same component, okay? Plus a part where you can, let's change the color, maybe where you have the possibility to add a few courses, okay? Okay, so how do we move? Now, the first view is easy, right? The first view, we type the URL in the URL bar of the browser, and you go to that page. How do you move from the first view, so from the first route to the second route? Well, actually, it's pretty simple because we say once logged in, you have to log in, right? So you log in. And how do you log in? Think in terms of your application. What is needed to log in? Well, my recommendation personally in this simple application that we have for, and that we ask for the exam, is to have what we had during the lecture. So an additional page just for the login. Okay? Login. Okay, username, password, and 2 buttons. Okay. Cancel. Oops. Cancel. Okay? Cancel in case you want to go back. Always remember that we need to have a way to navigate between the pages. If we go to the login and we want to go back, there's no way. I mean, we have to reload your application. Okay? We know it works only with slash, but it means we need to start from scratch again. Okay? So an application that has good design typically allows you to navigate through the elements of the user interface without pressing forward and backward without pressing the buttons for the coming with the browser, forward and back. Okay? That's not good because they reload the application. Our it's a single page application. It means if we don't start from slash, it doesn't work anymore. Okay? Unless we did something additional, which is not actually required for the exam. Maybe in the future, but at the moment, no. Okay? And I mean, the future means next year. We think about how to improve the course every year. Okay, and then we need to decide how to move between this. At the moment, there are 3 routes. Okay? Not sure if they are enough for our application. Probably yes, but we already know the solution. But I mean, you design things iteratively. Okay, so of course, I mean, if you already know everything, you can design everything and implement everything from the beginning. But I mean, if you don't know, you try to implement the most important part first, and then you modify things, okay, until you get something that is reasonable and that satisfies you. Okay, so every once in a while, either commit the code in the Git or save it in some ways. Okay, we don't care about what you do in the Git. We are not going to have a look at the history. We just care about the last commit with the final tag. Okay, the Git is there for you, I mean, for your convenience and also for our convenience, because in the past years it was a good way to handle the submission. Okay, now they are retiring the GitHub Classroom. So basically, for the first 2 exams, it still works. We have to find an alternative solution for the 3rd exam. But I mean, just you know, an issue for the future. Okay, but I mean, it's just. I mean, GitHub Classroom is just a way to create a repository that's private between you and us teachers, and that's all. And you commit something, you push something, and that's a way to submit a solution. Okay. Okay. So make sure you save your temporary solutions while you develop the application, just in case. Okay. And so you can go back in case you break something. And here, now we have these 3 routes, probably enough, we don't know. We need to think how to move between one route and the other. Okay? Well, how to move from slash to login? Well, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, we already saw examples during the lecture. Let's put a button, login, right? Oops. Login. And let me use another color. Okay. Login. It's a button that does navigate to /login, or you render a navigate component, you go to /login. Login shows username and password. Okay. I mean, the point is that we have an additional thing to care about. Okay. I mean, we can leave it for later, but don't forget about this. But since, I mean, we don't have so much time, we need to finish by 11:30. I mean, I don't want to neglect too many things, okay? So, I mean, you remember that there's the TOTP issue, right? again, okay, or cancel, or maybe skip. Since this is not really cancel but skip, okay, because the text says you are allowed to skip it. I think the text for this exam, the theater also says it. Typically it says you can skip it. Yeah, admin users must choose at login if they also want to be able to act as admin. Okay, this is a bit different, right? But I mean, it's easy to adapt, okay? So it's a user and it has to decide if it wants to do the TOTP. I mean, you're expected to enter the TOTP code. You don't really want to skip because you already decided to take it, okay? But I mean, not so much difference. And how do we handle this? Is it another route or not? Up to you. My suggestion is stick with the solution that we used during the lectures because they are well tested. That's what we explained. I mean, it's not because we are perfect. Maybe there's something wrong also in what we said. It might be possible. But, I mean, we think we showed the simplest path to achieve the result. Okay? That's why we recommend to follow what we did during the lectures, because we think it's the easiest way to achieve the result. Okay? I mean, I've seen many things. I can tell you stories about, you know, all the submission I've seen during the past and so on. So it's not really mandatory to you know, to have this structure. You can have a different route. You can have a button that then gives, brings you to another page to enter the TOTP code and so on. I mean, many different options, but they're for sure more complex than the solution we gave during the lectures. Okay? So during the lectures, basically, we had a simple component that, depending on the state, decided what the component you show. Okay? Either the form for the login username and password or the TOTP form. Okay? My suggestion would be stick with this solution. Okay? One less route to care about, and I mean a very simple state that decides what to show in the route. Okay? React state, I mean. Okay, and so after the login, of course, you go to the study plan. Okay? So you have the OK button, submit, whatever. It goes to the server, of course. Okay, so this is not shown here. Okay, we don't have the interaction with the server yet here in this drawing. And you go to the server, you send the username and password, and the server says, okay, good, and sends you the cookie and so on. But it also sends like 200 okay, or maybe it says 400 something not authorized, okay? And depending on the answer of the server, you decide to go either here or you stay here, okay? Depending on the response of the server, okay? So if you enter the wrong password, which is something that we typically do at the exam, by the way, just to test what happens in case there's a wrong username or password, okay, you stay on the same page. Okay, you log in some web application. What does it happen when you have a wrong page? It says, sorry, invalid credential, try again, right? It stays on the same page. We expect things to work more or less like in, let's say, a normal application that you use every day. Okay, just to finish the discussion, okay, we are in study plan. It's good to have a log out button, okay, somewhere when you are logged in. Okay, of course, if you press the logout button, you go back to the original page. Okay. I mean, this is not really explicitly. Oh, it's not here. It's not really explicitly said here, but I mean, it's part of what you should have learned during the course. Okay, best practices and so on. Okay. In some application, it might not make that much difference, but I want to try with a different user. I log out and I log in with a different set of credentials. Okay, so that's more or less the view on the client side, and we can go and try to define now the interaction between the client and the server. That's the second important thing you should care about. Okay, without without knowing how the application works on the client side, it's difficult to design APIs, okay? Because you don't know what you need to provide to the client, because the client doesn't exist, okay? It's true that the client doesn't exist yet now, but I mean, at least you have an idea, okay? So like we arrive at the front page, we need a list of courses, right? So we need to have an API to get a list of courses, right? So let's try to write something about, I mean, this API, okay? So my recommendation is to go here, okay, week 12, and create, I mean, let's assume this week 12 is the repository that you got from the GitHub Classroom, so your private repository where you are going to submit things and so on. You clone the repository, but it doesn't really matter. It can be any folder on your local computer, then you copy it afterwards. README MD, okay? And you already have a template that is actually this one, right? So just copy paste. Oops, oh, so. I copy pasted an empty. Oh, why? Copy. Okay. Paste. Okay, good. Save. Let's close the other ones, otherwise I do mistakes. Okay, so that's the README that comes with the template. Okay, so exam, just edit the README and then we start writing something inside. Okay, exam 1, theater. Okay, I mean, not so important, but I mean, students S99999. That's my name and so on. But again, the association is not done by this README, but it's very convenient because if you put your name here, when we open your application, I mean, we have a look at the README and we have a second confirmation of the fact that everything has been loaded correctly. We are not looking at the code from somebody else. But you typically then tell us, I mean, that's not my code. Okay, so maybe I took the wrong project. Right? Okay, so routes, you see the routes. Okay, route slash, let's say list of courses, slash, it can be parametric as well, right? But I mean, study plan, list of courses plus study plan, editable study plan that can be edited, I mean, just inventing something, okay? Route, login, with credentials /TOTP, okay? Because we said, okay, just one single route for both things, okay? Yes. Yeah, in the solution I will publish, there's no, I mean, there's just a single route, okay? But I mean, that's for later. That's our first idea, that's good. I mean, okay, API server. API server, let's start with the get. Get is easier, right? Get, in the beginning you get API course list or something like this. Courses, okay? Request parameters, none, okay? So there's no request parameters. just response body can be something like, well, an array, okay? I'm writing in JSON. Why? Because we are expecting you to exchange information in JSON. That's the simplest thing. That's what we already showed, always showed during the lectures, and that's what we expect you to do, okay? It's simple. We saw the libraries and everything. And it's a list of objects. Typically, everything you load from the server, unless it's something really, really simple, it's a list of objects, because it's the most flexible structure. You have a list of things you want to load from the server. Okay? You define what's inside the object. There can be, keys and values. Okay? Like code, we have 02L SEOV. Just remember, this is JSON, okay, double quotes. But I mean, this is just the readme. It's just for humans, so I mean, we don't really care that much. Name, computer architectures. Probably you want the CFU 12, and then it's up to you. If you want to have a single API that loads everything, probably here you should have the list of constraints for each single course. Okay? If you want to have a second API for the list of constraints, still fine. Okay? Again, it's up to you. You need to decide what is better, what is worse. I mean, yeah, I don't really have any preference. I mean, you could have a list of courses and a list of constraints that is separate from the courses. Maybe my preference would be to have the information about the constraints here in the list of courses, because in a much more general setting, maybe there are many courses and you want to load only a subset of the courses, and so maybe you want to load the constraint just for the courses that you loaded. But this is really, I mean, a very, how to say, it's probably thinking too much ahead, okay? In this first stage, probably having a single API or two APIs, it doesn't change that much, okay? Our application is quite simple, you know, it gives a table with quite a number of courses, so probably you want to load all of them with the constraints for all of them, and probably you don't want to load additional courses, okay? But I mean, this is something interesting that we could discuss during the discussion, for instance, okay? What's the difference between designing a single API and designing two APIs for loading the courses and the constraints in a separate way, advantages and disadvantages, and you can reason about this, and you can say something, and I can understand you understood the concept about, you know, designing APIs, advantages and disadvantages, and so on. Okay, but from the practical point of view, I mean, the application works in both ways. Okay, so let's stick with the simplest solutions. In my opinion, is not to have too many APIs, but I mean, it's just a preference. Okay. And so there are constraints like, like we have the max students. That could be a number, could be null. You need to define a protocol, okay? A way in which you exchange information from the server to the client and vice versa, okay? So when there is no max, you need to decide what to put here in this field, okay? Can be null, can be 0, can be a negative number. Of course, cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4, because they are valid values for the constraints, okay? But you need to decide something, okay? For instance, here I just wrote null, but I mean, because I'm taking from this implementation that uses null, but I mean, 0 would be fine, okay? A course with 0 students doesn't make sense, or minus 1 students, okay? Still fine. Just try to, you know, to use, how to say, reasonable values, okay? Something that you can easily explain, okay? Why did you use a negative number? Because it doesn't make sense to have a course with a negative number of students, okay? So it's kind of free number that you can use for another purpose. That's all. Okay, and then you have its incompatibilities. Oops, incompatibilities. You can abbreviate things. I mean, that's your protocol, okay? Just try not to be too short, because if I say I, okay, that's fine. For me, it's fine. For the computer, that's fine. But then you have to explain it to me at the discussion, and you forgot about what it is, okay? That's not good, right? But if you write incompat, maybe because you want to short it, that's probably enough, okay? But this is just practical advice, okay? I mean, it doesn't really affect your grade, your final grade, as long as you are able to explain things, okay? Incompat, it's a list of incompatible courses, and there can be more than one, okay? If you are unsure, just ask, okay, about the specifications. So it's a list, okay? Can be also empty. That's fine. There's no other incompatible courses. Mandatory or previous mandatory previous course, okay? Again, null, it's possible. Empty string, that's possible. I would be a bit careful with the empty string because all the codes are seven characters. I mean, if you have null, the code crashes. If you have the empty string, it does not, so catching the error might be a bit more difficult, okay? But I mean again, this is just a preference. I mean, empty string is fine. I mean, if you apply a method to null, the code crashes so easily, you easily spot a bug, and if you have an empty string, the methods are valid. So again, a matter of preference. And this is the response body, and you see, I mean, that's one object. I would say you can write something like this, and 3 dots just to say there can be more than one, okay? But actually it's an array, so it's quite obvious. Response body, that's a list of the courses with the incompatibility, okay? So we can say list of courses with the constraints. Example, okay? That's all, okay? And let's go back to our design. Is this enough? I think so. We need to implement things to make sure it's actually enough. But I mean, if we think a little bit, I mean, there's a list that is the stuff that we need to show. We will have maybe a component to show a single course, and a button, it shows the details. We have the details. So, I mean, as long as we get the answer from the server, from this API, and we load it into a React state, and we can access this state, we use it for rendering the list, probably that's enough, okay? I mean, we are never sure 100% until we implement the things, right? But, I mean, we try to at least have a sketch of the design and then start working on this design, okay? Good. Then we need to log in, okay? Login, I mean, we really don't have to invent anything for the login, okay? Just adapt a little bit, maybe like with the theater, there's this administrator, so think a little bit about how to handle this administrator case, but I mean, apart from that, I mean, login is always a post with a username, login it means you move to a different page, and then you have to implement some APIs to do the actual login, so it's a post for session and so on. So, I mean, just go copy paste from the lectures, okay? Server, I think you have the README, right? That's the create a new session, log in. get the current session, destroy the current session. I mean, this is always the same, right? So, I will say, and then we will format the README better later, okay? But I mean, you don't really have to invent these APIs. They're already there, okay? They're always the same. Okay, so let's assume we logged in. So we press the OK. Let's keep the TOTP for the moment. You can leave it as the last thing you want to implement, okay, in your project. If you don't have the TOTP, I mean, you pass the exam. You don't get the maximum grade, of course, but I mean, it's not costing so many points as I mean, taking many APIs wrong, okay? Of course, something is missing, and so you cannot get the maximum, but apart from that. Okay, so login, we arrive at the study plan. So do we need to have an additional API for the study plan? Well, the list of courses, that is what is shown on the left. I don't think there's nothing that needs to be modified for the list of courses, right? Because, I mean, the list of courses doesn't change because of the fact you logged in or not, right? What changes is that you have a study plan at the moment. That maybe it's already stored on the server and you need to load it, right? So we can have like a get study plan, okay? So let me do another get the study plan. Do you agree with, if you have different ideas, just speak up, okay? Study plan. So again, it's a get, nothing need to be sent as a request body. Authenticated, okay? So this is an authenticated API. It will answer only if there is an active session. Otherwise, it says unauthorized. By the way, I have nothing to say if there's no active session because I don't know the user, okay? I don't know the student. I don't know the one who is making the request. It's wrong, remember, it's wrong to send the ID of the student in the body of the, well, there's no body, in the URL of the request, okay? Because this is an authenticated API. Only the student has access to the information about its study plan. There's a session active, and who is the student, who's the user, which is associated with the session, needs to be retrieved from the server side. rec.user.id or something similar, okay? So you don't want to send, and it's really, really wrong to send the ID of the students here in the URL, okay? That's the first thing I spot if I look at the APIs. I say get study plan / ID. You immediately get a question. And you're not able to answer satisfactorily to this question because this is really wrong, okay? Even though you say, okay, I forgot it, on the server side, I'm not using it, and so on. Why are you sending it, okay, if you're not using it? Don't forget this. I mean, the design of the API is really important because it says a lot of what you thought about this system, okay? And that's why it's the first thing we read at the exam, because we need to get an idea what you thought about how to implement the system. Okay, good. Let's finish here about the getting the private information of the user. So response body, list of the courses in the study plan. Study plan. If you want to be a bit more specific, just for you, okay, of the authenticated user, okay? And so actually here, well, it's a list, so it's an array again. Most of the time it's an array. It can be just a list of codes, right? Why not? LSCOV something else like 101 OT. I mean, just it doesn't really matter, okay? That's good. Okay? These are the courses in the study plan. Do you want to add other information? I'm not sure. We need to think. And it's good we have to think, right? To use our brain. That's basically this list, you know, the purple lines. And what about the rest? I mean, you remember that in the text we said we wanted to have the total that is updated and so on. I think there is some places where it says the total. It says something about what is the total. I cannot find it at the moment. For each course, the list shows description. Oh, that's the courses. Here. Always display the number of credits corresponding to the courses in the study plan and the minimum, maximum allowed. Okay, there's a minimum, maximum to handle. And there is also... I don't find it. Well, okay. You have to trust me somewhere. It's in the text, and then we will reread the text just to make sure we implemented everything. But yes, always display the number of credits corresponding to the courses in the study plan. That's maybe could have been written better, okay? But I mean the total number of credits, okay? Okay, good. But I mean the total number of credits, do we need to get it from the server? I don't think so. I mean the credits are already available here, okay? And we can do a little bit of computation on the client side, okay? That's fine. You want to pass it from the server? Still fine, okay? Still fine, why? Because, I mean, it's something that we have to recompute on the server side as well. So, I mean, again, I have no real strong preference between the two solutions. I mean, it's something that you could, I mean, you compute it for visualization purposes in any case, because when you are editing the study plan, you want to add and remove courses, so you have to recompute the total on this client side. So probably compute it on the client side is the easiest solution, okay? At least in the beginning, okay? Good. And so we have, we need to have like 3 numbers here. Oops, what's this stuff? No. Tot max and min. Okay? What about the min and max? Min and max, minimum and maximum allowed values. But actually this depends on the full-time option or part-time option. Actually, where is this information stored? Well, of course, if the student already has a study plan, it already made this choice, okay? It's full-time or part-time. So it's stored on the server, and we need to get it from the server. Again, otherwise we have no ways of saying, I mean, what's the actual min and max that is allowed, okay? We can compute the total because we have the list of courses, we check the credits, number of credits, and we do the total, but the sum. And so, again, here, either we use an additional API, get study plan type, for instance, full-time, part-time, or get min max study plan, get study plan details, whatever you want, okay? Or, again, you can modify the study plan. It's an information about the study plan. Why don't you want, I mean, you can add like 2 fields, right? Min, what was it? 40 and 80, I think, right? No, it was 60. 68. So 60 and max 80, and then you have an array, so you need to give a key, okay? Course list with the quotation marks at JSON, okay? Just modify the information returned by the study plan. So it also includes a minimum and maximum, okay? We still have one thing left to decide. What happens in case there's no study plan? Or, I don't know, I'm just writing, I mean, thinking together with you, okay? I mean, there could be empty object, that's fine. You can have minimum 0, -1, whatever, it's fine. Okay? Just be careful of the fact that, I mean, there's this part-time option and full-time option. I mean, when you create a new study plan, because the user has the possibility to create a new study plan, right? Because you delete a study plan, so you need to have the opportunity to create a new study plan. And you need to decide if you want a part-time or full-time, and you need to decide if you want to be able to save an empty study plan or not. Probably not, I would say, because, I mean, when you choose min and max, I mean, when you choose full-time or part-time, you already decided for a minimum, right? And so, I mean, you are saving a study plan which is not valid. I mean, the minimum is 20, right? So I think this should be enough. So there's no study plan because the user clicked on delete, and so there's no choice between full-time or part-time, okay? There's just no study plan. That's a possibility, okay? I mean, that's just my interpretation. Again, you can have a different one, and the solution I will publish will have a different one, quite a different one, quite an unusual one, but that's correct, okay? I wouldn't publish something that is not correct. It's just quite peculiar, so you can see how far you can go with your thinking in terms of APIs and so on, okay? Okay, so is everything fine? Are we missing something? I would say, well, maybe yes. Well, I already know the answer, so it's no. But, I mean, you don't know, you try to implement things. Okay, so you have the APIs, you write the APIs on the server side, you write some client code, you load the information on the client, you show some basic information, and then you try to interact with your application. And at a certain point, you realize that you missed something, okay? And what did you miss at the moment? Well, at the moment, I need to tell you because otherwise it takes like a few hours to implement all this stuff. Hopefully less if you attended the lab, if you developed some code and so on, you can copy paste it from your code, and it's pretty easy. I mean, you design the database, and there's a database with a list of courses, there's a database with the list of courses associated to a user and so on. You just have to retrieve the information with the select and put it back into a JSON in the format that we just decided, and that's all, okay? But but apart from that, I mean, you do some experiment, at a certain point you realize that, oh, there were courses, okay, that had a limit in terms of maximum number of students, okay? Did we get this information? Yes, we got it, okay? We got it when? When we arrived at the first page, right? Because you remember the API. CFU, max students, incompatibilities, mandatory. Yeah, max students was here, okay? So it's like max student 3, for instance. I mean, I'm not saying 300 because, you know, it takes too much time to test it. Use small number. That's why in the exam, you know, I wrote, you know, after 40 seconds, right? Because if I write, you know, the next day, you have to come back the next day to test it, right? I mean, okay? So, I mean, again, here, we are just testing with the small numbers, so it's easier, right? So you have 2 students who have taken the course. If you have maximum 3, you can add 1 more, and then you add the second one, it doesn't work, okay? And you can test it. Of course, it doesn't make sense to have a course for 3 students, but it doesn't really matter. So the point is that, okay, we have the maximum. We don't know how many students are currently enrolled, right? Did we forget it in the previous API? Do we need it now? I don't know. I need to think. So actually, the list of courses must be displayed in alphabetical order and so on. And if present, the maximum number of students that can select it, okay? But also the number of students that already chose the course, okay? So actually, I would say we forgot something in the previous API. That's also because I cut, I mean, the printed version was cut. So, non-students. Let's say 2, okay? And let's say max student 3, okay? Just to try. So it's normal that you go back in your APIs, in your implementation, and you fix it. Because you're not getting you're not writing the correct code at the first try, okay? It's perfectly normal, right? You go back. It happens so many times to me as well during the lectures, right? So you go back and fix it. You forgot something, you fix it, okay? Hopefully it's not too big. I mean, if you are really unlucky, you forgot a very important thing, and you have to redesign a part of your application. That's really unlucky because it takes so much work to do it, right? But in general, I mean, maybe you missed a field, you missed something, you go back, you add it, and you modify the rest of the code, you return this information and so on, and then you continue testing and you continue implementing your application. Okay, good. So at the moment, we have also the information about how many students took the course, okay? And so I would say we have now the possibility to act on the study plan, okay? And how do we act on the study plan? Well, we need to have some parts of the user interface where the user can do the modification to the study plan, okay? We didn't think about this yet. Why? Because it was too early, okay? First of all, I want to see something, okay? Load the information from the server and so on. And then let's try to do the operations that are required, okay? Editing of the study plan, delete of the study plan, and so on. Okay, oh, what's the time? I should have a break, right? Sorry. Let's have a short break, okay? Like 10 minutes break, because it's 10 a.m. I didn't realize it was running long, okay? And so, next, if you have any questions about this, and I would say also for the exam, in case I can answer, I will gladly answer you, but I cannot give suggestions, I mean, real good suggestions, okay? Because of fairness for all the students, okay? For respect of all the students. If I give a suggestion, if we have something to say for the exam, I will post it on the Telegram, okay? So if you say something that is of interest to anybody, in the interest of fairness among all the students, I will post it on Telegram, okay? So everybody can read it. Oh, by the way, as I wrote, I'm not answering personal questions about, questions that has been sent by direct messages, by private messages to me about the exam, because, again, because of fairness among all the students. If it's an issue with your repository, you cannot log in and so on, etc., that's perfectly fine. The others are not interested in your issues. But about the exam, please use the public channel. If you are shy, use another nickname, whatever. We don't care if it's anonymous. I mean, we are not really caring about this. But the important thing is that the same message goes to everybody, okay? I hope all of you are on Telegram. If you are not, maybe it's a good time to join, or maybe we can find an alternative arrangement, okay? Okay, so let's have a break, otherwise we will stop. And we'll finish this example later, okay?